100%. And FOMO is huge, obviously, with money, and there's also a lot of fear and uncertainties around personal finance in general. It's just not a very open conversation that we have in a lot of our arenas of connections in our communities, right? Whether it be our family, whether it be our friends, whether it be our business owner colleagues, right? Whether it's in our church or a job, there's just not an overly open conversation with uh, uh, true objectivity there, right?
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Nick Savoy. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. I'm excited to get into this conversation today.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here and have the chance to connect and be a part of what you do.
I really appreciate it. I also like to kick off the show and talk about the importance of networking. How are we connected?
Yeah, so Olivia Atkin, who is a friend of mine, is the one that introduced us and the opportunity to collaborate together.
I could not agree more. The thing I love about Olivia, and it's funny, her and I talk several times a week. She helps me with a lot of different projects I work on as well, and it's always great to have that next level connection because when Olivia reaches out and she's like, "Hey, I have a guest that you would really enjoy talking to," I'm already excited. So I laugh because I all skip that next vetting process, the short little call to make sure we align because it's that level of trust I have in Olivia.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes it you know it makes it very seamless and efficient to just go ahead and take the step, right? It's the same in my business. Oftentimes, I get introduced to people all the time from friends and clients and things of that nature. And as soon as that introduction's made, I usually I don't discount anything because if they're being introduced to me, they're coming for a reason, right? And so there's very much a lot more intentionality in just getting straight to the point and being very relational and allowing the conversation to kind of take a life of its own.
I could not agree more, Nick. So I want to know a little bit more about you. That comic book issue number one, origin story. Who's Nick?
Complex person. I'm very grateful and blessed to be born with a lot of health issues that, frankly, are not overly present any longer. There's some minor things that I have to navigate, but when I was born, that was not the case, and I went through a lot of surgeries and a lot of different issues. Had a rare formation of an extra half a chromosome, which doesn't mean I have a quote unquote disease or major medical challenge. It just means I have a handful of challenges, so to speak. And but what I'll tell you is that those blessings for me really shape a lot of the perspective and my approach towards life. Um, I was I look at life from two different lenses on a very frequent basis. The one is, um, is it that simple, or are we just naive to want to believe that things are not that simple, right? And then the other is what is possible. And so I'm very blessed and grateful to have a great family support system, married, a Christian. So first and foremost, my responsibilities with the Lord and being present there so that He can fill up my cup so I can be present for my wife. And then also to be present for my kiddos and ideally if we do it well, raise a couple of disciples that'll create another couple of generations from our family tree to the same Christian world, and create ultimate impact and serve with a kind heart.
As you mentioned, growing up, you had some of those challenges. How were you able to overcome some of those? As you mentioned, there's still things that linger, but in general.
Yeah, I think it's you just push forward. Um, there's not a whole lot of other options you can have, right? I mean, you just got to learn to embrace the challenges, and by doing so, it allows you the ability to navigate situations a little bit more intentionally, to put yourself in the best position to thrive. Right. One of the challenges that I have is I'm deaf in one ear, and so that creates interesting dynamics when I'm in especially loud places with a bunch of people. I have to be very cognizant of what side I'm sitting on or where I'm sitting in the room. When I'm with my family, again, it's one of the same things. I'm always making sure that I'm sitting to my wife's right, so that I can have, my, sometimes I suppose, I intentionally sit on the left side so it's harder for me to hear whatever the chatter is. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, there's not a lot of other things you can do other than just trust the process, and be equipped with the resources of knowledge of other people to, take have your best interest in mind, and use that as the tool to just embrace what you have, and keep moving forward.
Nick, now take me a little bit through your professional journey. What did that look like? How did that unfold?
I think it's just like everyone else's, cumbersome and clunky, right? I went to school for small business management. I moved from Michigan down to West Lafayette after I went to school for a junior college for a year because I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to expand my horizons, and had opportunities to stay closer to home. However, I wanted to, again, learn to become an adult on my own, and I have mom and dad, right there in my back pocket or corner, so to speak, and work through some of those challenges of becoming adult by myself. And so I moved to West Lafayette and attended Purdue University and got a degree, excuse me, in small business management. And it was actually called small business management, not entrepreneurship at the time. So I'm kind of putting my age out there a little bit. And it was actually in the School of Human Health and Family Sciences, I believe, is what the school was. Now Purdue has its own entrepreneurship school and things of that nature. But during that process, I thought I wanted to own. I'd always had the desire to own a business. When I graduated, I had before that I had an opportunity to do basically an internship with a small business, beer wholesaler distributorship here in Indiana, and I loved what I was doing there, and wasn't really sure, wasn't confident in my abilities to start a business. Didn't really know what it was going to be in when I left school, so I went corporate and sold beer for 15 years. And then after that, was challenged by a financial advisor that my wife and I had on our team, and he just asked, "Hey, you've always said you're going to own a business. When are you going to go do that?" And that was after having two kids in 13 months, and our youngest being 15 months at the time. And he said, "I think you should like start your own thing." And it's like, man, we've been through a lot over the last handful of years to getting to this point. I don't know that this is the time to do it. Uh, but through conversations, I decided that was the time to do it, and transition from selling beer to becoming a financial advisor and helping people with money. Uh, and the intrigue there was, I was working a lot of the time. My responsibility is working with independent business owners in the bar and restaurant space, which have lots of different employees, lots of bartenders and waitresses and waiters that they make pretty good cash for the type of work that they do. Obviously today most of the work is we're going to be reported on credit cards, and it's not as cash heavy as it was even 15 years ago. That being said, you always heard the noise that they never had any money, and it's like, man, you guys have money in all the time. Like, where is this going? And I was like, this could be a great opportunity. And I was intrigued always with when I was in the space of helping business owners. I never cared about selling the beer. It was how do I was always operating from the mindset of a business owner, and how do you see me less, order more product at a lower cost, and move more volume to generate more revenue, right? And if we could do those three things, then I'm having a small fingerprint and impact on hopefully the profitability of your business. And so when those conversations came up of opportunities to start a business, I felt that was the trend. The calling was to go that route, and become more intentional, be more fulfilled. There's not a lot of creativity that's involved when you're selling beer. You switch the sale from selling Miller Lite for $2 a can to selling Coors Light for $2 a can on Thursday. Like, not a whole lot of creativity to that, right? And so it became, over time, just very mundane work, and wanted to, I knew there was more in the tank, more that I could provide and serve and create impact, and so that I decided to jump, against my wife's intuitions. And thankfully, we're still married today, a handful of years later. But she was absolutely not on board with the move of transitioning from a consistent, not guaranteed paycheck to no consistent, no guarantee revenue ever coming in, and asked, the questions while we were going through the process. So when are you going to get paid? It's like, well, that's a good question. We're not sure yet. Right. And so did that for 8 years and left, I sold my practice in the end of uh, 2024, and over the last 10 months or so, I've became a certified tax advisor. I knew I wanted to stay in the financial space. Just didn't know what that looked like and what it really, when I stepped back and prayed and reflected and spent time with the Lord, it just came to me that I needed to still be in the calling was still to stay in the space. I was just wearing the wrong jacket. And so I created my own financial architecture firm, where I'm a certified tax advisor and work exclusively with high income earners that have a lot of emotional friction with taxes. They're making a lot of money, and it feels like their tax bill is going up higher and higher progressively with the more money they're making. And they also feel broke, right? Because the lifestyle creep also happens. They make more than what they need. And the parallel is they're generally keeping their expenses very similar to what they're making, and so they're needing more and more money, and they just feel like they're just working on the rat with, on the constant wheel all the time, and business owners. And so those are the two areas of people I help these days, is helping business owners and high income earners understand how to utilize the IRS code to their advantage, and how it's designed, and to take an agnostic approach, to create clarity about all the financial moving parts in their world, and why it's so critical for us to think intentionally around how they're all connected together. So that when we make those decisions of adding another ingredient to our life, our ecosystem financially, we're doing it in confidence, and we have an understanding of how it's connected to the other side of the coin, so to speak.
Nick, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate what you do, and it's funny to me because I think growing up, I didn't have that realization or understanding of how can a high net worth earner be broke, as you mentioned, or at least feel broke. And it's so funny because I think as I grew up and as I got older, I could feel that creep come in. Is suddenly I'm buying maybe the nicer drink at the bar, maybe the nicer beer, or just sometimes it's even splurging a little more. And it's funny because it's not like you can't have any fun or anything like that. But it's one thing I know personally. I had to take a step back and look at my finances a little bit and see, like, okay, do I really need this, or is this actually fulfilling me, or is this just me, subconsciously keeping up with the Joneses?
100%. And FOMO is huge, obviously, with money. And there's also a lot of fear and uncertainties around personal finance in general. It's just not a very open conversation that we have in a lot of our arenas of connections in our communities, right? Whether it be our family, whether it be our friends, whether it be our business owner colleagues, right? Whether it's in our church or a job, there's just not an overly open conversation with uh, uh, true objectivity there, right? Like, we're very fearful of, if I say that I have a financial issue, like, what is Jeremy going to think? Right? Or is Jeremy going to be like, man, what, are you crazy? You're broke. Like, you make 200, 300, $1 million a year. Like, how can you be broke? Right? And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that money's invisible, uh, but also too, because we don't create an open area for people to have conversations around money just to become better stewards, and we like to, you know, not whole embrace accountability with our money and push it off to someone else. And oh, I don't know, and I don't know how to manage money, or I stink at money. All the negative things that we can talk about ourselves in that space, in that arena, it riddles us with that belief that we don't have options or a way to maximize our potential with our finances, and understand that at the end of the day, simply money is just a tool. It's no different than oxygen and water. It is a tool. It shouldn't be weighted any higher than anything else. We just have to forget all the other crap that's out there and just know that it's a tool, right? And I think also to that point, it's invisible. We struggle with invisible things, right? And so we have a bunch of financial moving parts all, bouncing in between our ears with all the other noise that's going on inside of our head, and we don't know truly how or why we should be implementing a trust or buying a piece of property or investing in a 401k or other types of things or insurances or things of that nature, or why we should, leverage debt in certain situations, because we're just doing the what's because Jeremy says, hey, welcome aboard, Nick. Here's our team. Here's the employee benefits. Jump in. And yet I probably have questions internally of like, but why should I jump in? Like, what's so attractive about those benefits? And because we don't like to, it's uncomfortable to have deep conversations and take time to learn about who Jeremy is, right? We don't want to educate on why those benefits or those things, we should be thinking about them more critically than just a very laissez-faire universal because everyone's doing it or because it's going to help you set up for retirement. Well, maybe I want to retire from work at 50, not 60. So is putting money in the 401k truly beneficial for someone that wants to get there at 50, 10 years before I can use those assets, right? And so because of that, that's why the financial architect thing really came to be for me. Is people are visual learners, and we need to be able to see a blueprint of how everything is connected visually, like the fundamental structures, not the dollar signs of what we have in these things or what we don't have in these things, and then have that trigger all these emotions around it because like, oh man, I'm broke. I made $1 million. And unfortunately, when we scale, right? Yeah, we might splurge on dining out expenditures or vacations or things of that nature. But oftentimes we end up buying the FOMO cool toys, right? That are likely depreciable assets that we're buying on debt, not owning outright, that we can't immediately get rid of if our income just goes down, right? We buy a nicer car, we buy a nicer home, that's a bigger financial commitment, and so all of a sudden there's and we forget that cash flow, right? Money in and money out is an asset class. And it's probably one of the most important asset classes that we have, yet we don't understand or take time to want to learn the importance of money coming in and money going out and saying, hey, I am content, fulfilled, at peace and at joy with the lifestyle that I have at $10,000 a month, even though I might go from 10 to 11 to 12 to 15 to $20,000 a month in income. I'm content at 10. Let's capture that gap of surplus and reposition it over time into other things. That alone will set us up for, you know, a very confident path forward on how we can navigate financial, hurdles and challenges or opportunities, and probably put us in a very strong position to accumulate wealth.
Nick, I couldn't agree more. I appreciate that sentiment. It's so funny because I had that kind of moment, I guess you could say, of clarity or near uncertainty because I needed a new car last year. I was making pretty decent money. I knew I was about to go all in on my own business, but and it's funny because there was an Acura. I like Acuras. I had there's only cars I've owned, and of course when you have to go in for maintenance, they let you borrow one, and they let me borrow a very nice Acura. And
Nice.
I saw myself crunching the numbers because I could have made that one work. And there was something in me telling me, just don't do it. Like you've learned too much to do something like this right now. And fortunately, I ended up deciding with a 2011 Acura right under my budget. I actually ended up paying cash for it because, again, it was a depreciating asset kind of the second you drive it off the lot. And I felt really good after it because I love this car. I'm very happy with it. But I could feel that if I hadn't had the fortune of learning from my dad about kind of that financial responsibility, and I always tell people their parent to people who are parents, your kids are always listening. Are they always going to take the advice? No, almost never.
No.
But that doesn't mean it's not in their ear. That doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. I could always, I'm fortunate. I'll probably see my dad later today, but I always can hear him and, hey, is that a wise financial choice, or is that just for fun? And of course, there's that balance of life and fun, but I do have to laugh because I am appreciative of that kind of background knowledge I learned, growing up about kind of, okay, probably don't need the brand new car, even though it's really sweet and went really fast.
Yeah, and at the end, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you can never go get that awesome vehicle, right? I think it's what happens is we the pressures of all the things, right, catch up to us, and I do believe that we should live life, right? I mean, effectively, whatever we put away for the future is just future spending money, right? Well, we call it investing and things of that nature, which is awesome. But like, are we? What my belief is that we're setting aside dollars that we can spend in the future for ourselves, for our communities, for our generations, behind us. We're setting dollars aside to have the luxury to enjoy life further, right? We shouldn't ignore being able to live in the moment. And there's a million ways to skin a cat, and there's a lot of ways that we can invest for today in living in the moment today and do live it for the future as well. But it comes down to being intentional stewards of the blessings that we have in front of us, right? And utilizing and taking time to want to learn to become better with our money, right? It's no different than running a podcast or starting a business or trying to lose weight and get in better physical shape or things of that nature, right? Like we don't need the coaches, so to speak, to tell us what to do. We already probably know what to do, right? The problem is we are most of the time our own worst enemy that gets in the way of doing the just a simple thing. Is it that simple? Yes, take the step. It's that simple. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Simple is hard, and hard is and easy is hard, right? And they, but it's taking that step, right? Hey, I don't need you to tell me what I should probably do from a physical, exercise perspective if I wanted to get in better shape.
Exactly, exactly.
Both probably know what we should do, right? What I really need you to do is, hey, how's it going on that workout? Like, how many days did you walk this week? How many miles did you walk? How much push-ups did you do? Whatever weights did you lift? Like, yeah, I didn't do any of that. Yeah, that's kind of we knew that answer. You knew that answer before
Yeah.
I came back, right? It's like you're here because of that reason. But we have to be welcome and open to wanting to embrace having people in our team just to help us, stay committed to when things get really hard to keep taking that step forward, right?
Nick,
And understanding that we have to do it afraid sometimes, and that it's never going to work out to the exact degree that we thought it was going to be. Business ownership, I think, is incredibly challenging, but probably one of the most fulfilling things we can ever do in life. I'm a firm believer that everyone should commit themselves to becoming a business owner. It's not as risky as what I think the perception is. Um, is there risk associated to it, and can we fail? 100%. I think the reason I say that everyone should embrace the opportunity to become their own business owner is without doing something like that, you're leaving the future up to someone else's hands. And I think the fulfillment of creating your own thing, right? And watching that blossom and create massive impact and waves across communities is incredibly awe inspiring and powerful.
Nick, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think it's so true, especially the business aspect of there's something just that feels good about kind of being in control of your own destiny. Of course, we're never in control, and I understand that, but at the same
100%.
time, it is great knowing that for financial reasons, my job doesn't have to lay me off. There's nice to having a little bit of control in that sense of, okay, maybe I see this client, they likely aren't going to renew. Okay, what can I do now? Who do I reach out to? Where can I continue to grow this business? And I think it's one of those truly rewarding things. And I had a conversation with a couple of friends this weekend. I hadn't seen in a while. And, just catching up. You don't, as life goes on, you don't get to hang out every weekend like we
Sure.
used to. So it was really good to connect in that way. But a lot of them were asking me. It's funny how those conversations kind of change from the conversations you had in college to what you're doing later on. But
Totally. When I think
yeah.
too to that end, right? We've all seen it in our own personal lives of people. That's why I said it. Earlier when you asked about the professional journey, I was working in corporate with a consistent, not guaranteed paycheck. We've seen it in our worlds. That consistent, not guaranteed paycheck shuts off tomorrow, and it's very much catching majority of people by surprise, right? And we shouldn't be surprised, right? We should never be surprised. Like life throws you curveballs, right? And it's designed to throw you curveballs so you stay on point, you stay attentive and present, and to be able to navigate those challenges. And because we struggle or we have challenges in embracing personal finance on our own, right? Most people have a very difficult time navigating that turbulence when it comes. Doesn't make business being a business owner any easier,
Correct.
correct? Uh, my wife and I were having a conversation the other day, and she's like, "Why are you so excited about this business and things and all that?" And yet at the same time, like the finances are a little shaky. And I said, "Well, here's the thing: like business ownership, the business train and the financial and the revenue train are not on the same track." Which is true in all businesses, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's a corporate business or your own business. Like the seed had to be planted first, right? You have to put the seed in the ground, water it, and grow it, right, and keep it alive, and let it. Then you have to let it harvest. You think about planting season, right? I'm in Indiana, and planting season's all abundant right now of all the agriculture stuff. Corn doesn't. I mean, it takes some of those things 90 to 120 days to sprout. Like that's just the nature of the beast, right? And so, like the same is true in life. The same is true in business. Like, and it's frustrating, but you have to stay focused on not the money, right? Not as we hear all the time, not results. And I'm the first to admit I get very attached to results and excited about results, right? And sometimes have to get reset to say, hey, just keep showing up every single day because the results are just the fruits of the hard work and the consistent effort to battle through the muck, and show up and put a smile on your face and try and be present and personable to whoever you encounter and the opportunities that you are approached with on a day-to-day basis.
Nick, I couldn't agree more. As we wrap up, I do have a question. On everyone's journey, you
Sure.
make a decision not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time where you just went for it and how it turned out?
I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of those. I think the journey I'm on now is awesome, and it was, I left in 2020. I sold my practice as I mentioned in earlier at the end of 2024. For a while, thought I was going to go actually back to that consistent, non-guaranteed corporate world just to get a paycheck. Right, life as a business owner stinks and it's hard, and all the other things. And frankly, those are just a lot of excuses and negative noise that was going on internally inside my head, and there was a lot of stress there, for sure. But I just reflected and leaned into being present with the Lord, more, and knew that through that the calling was to jump into learn different things and take find a gap in the financial industry, and stepping in. And while it's still a work in progress, you're 10 months into business. There's a lot of learning to do. I'm blessed with learnings of 45 years, right? And life learnings and technology, right, is a great advocate, great resource these days. While I don't think AI is everything. It definitely enhances our ability to um, increase our learning curves faster, accelerate our ability to learn. But yeah, we had a guest pastor, show up at church a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about a handful of different things. And his message was, there's a lot of times in life we're afraid of what's going to happen or afraid of the outcome on the other side. But we just got to take a step and just, if we're going to do something, we just got to do it. And oftentimes the Lord is just telling us that you just have to do it afraid. And so, like, there are days where I'm like, oh crap, like, are we closing up shop tomorrow? Like, there's no conversations and all that kind of stuff. And the reality is that's just leave it in someone else's hands. Do your job in this relationship of life, in the partnership, right? And control. We can control, and I can control waking up every day, be grateful for what I have, and the opportunities that are in front of me, and that's really what has allowed this journey to be, embraced to the level that I've embraced it, knowing that there's a lot of personal challenges that I'm being tested on a regular basis.
Well, Nick, as we close out, title the podcast Into the Unknown, where can people learn more about your business and what you're up to?
Sure. Easy contact is email address is nick at san727consulting.com, san727consulting.com. Phone number is 765-414-0092. I also have Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and yeah, just out there, and podcasts like Into the Unknown.
Well, Nick, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I love talking finances. I love learning more, and I always encourage people to keep digging, keep learning more about themselves. But I think that also helps you learn more about your financial kind of profile and things you like, and just uh, make it less of a secret, if that makes sense.
For sure, and I think it also allows us to gain internal confidence that um, while we are to show us what the Lord allows us to be capable of doing. Right, we are built for it.
Thank you again.
We just got to let the negative noise stay in the
I
closet.
love that. Thanks again, Nick.
Hey, thank you.
Another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.